How's it going, everyone? Back again with another video. In this video, let's just continue on what I was talking about in terms of multiplayer on that 7th generation video that I made about a month ago, shall we? Now, I promised you guys that I was going to do this video, and pretty much here it is. Now, first thing, if you guys been watching my channel, you guys know how I feel about multiplayer gaming lately. During the whole 8th generation, and it's starting to continue on with the 9th generation. You guys know how I feel. I seriously do believe that multiplayer gaming has fallen off comparing to the absolute highs, the absolute heroin addiction highs that we got in the 2000s and the start of the 7th generation, and just the absolute explosion of multiplayer games back then. And yeah, it's sad for me to say this, because I'm someone who used to love multiplayer games. Like between 2007 to 2010, wow, like there is a reason why I've missed so many games and franchises in the 7th generation Xbox 360, PlayStation 3. Is that it's because all I was doing in those good 3 years was literally playing multiplayer games. I could name the games off the top of my head that were not multiplayer games that I played in those past 3 years. Seriously, I can tell you right now, between 2007 and 2010, the only games I didn't play that weren't multiplayer was literally Red Dead Redemption 1 and Heavy Rain. That's about it. I didn't play anything else because I was literally on COD 4 and Modern Warfare 2 religiously. I'm talking about minimum. I was on it 5 hours a day. I refused to get off. I'd go to school. I wouldn't give a crap about school. I'd come home from school and I would literally just be on COD 4 religiously. I refused to get off it. I didn't care about any homework or any sort of assignments or anything like that. I didn't care anything about that. All I cared about was COD 4 and playing it. It was like a heroin addiction, and it was absolutely amazing back then. And it wasn't just COD 4. People who played Halo 3 said the same thing, how great that was back then. People who played Gears of War as well, and Uncharted, and a few other great multiplayer games as well, like GTA and stuff. Like even Metal Gear Solid 4 multiplayer was actually pretty good as well. So yeah, it was just absolutely amazing in terms of multiplayer games back then, and I seriously believe that all those franchises that I just mentioned, along with the new franchises that have come out in terms of multiplayer, have either fallen off or they're just not good enough. So I'm just going to give you guys a few reasons why I feel like multiplayer games have fallen off. Now, this is just my opinion. This is just me. I've been playing, like I said, I've been playing video games since the late 90s, 99, so 20 years, or 22 years if you want to be precise. So I've been playing games for 22 years. I've been playing multiplayer, like co-op games, for a good 17 years, and I've been playing online multiplayer for like 15. So I've spent a good proportion of my life playing multiplayer games, and I've been through the highs, the absolute amazing highs. Like oh man, like wow, I don't think it will ever be as good as it was back in the early 2000s. I really do believe that, and just the fact that nowadays, yeah, it's just the games that have been coming out, I seriously believe, compared to what we used to have to what we have now, are just nowhere near as good enough. Like, I have seriously fallen off the multiplayer bandwagon, and yeah, so I'm just going to give you my opinions why I believe that multiplayer games ain't that good enough. So yeah, let's just get right into it. All right. So the first thing, I don't want to repeat myself, but yeah, the first reason why and the main reason why I believe that multiplayer has fallen off and is nowhere near as good as it used to be is just the quality of games that have come out between the 7th generation and the 8th generation. Now, let's do a bit of comparison, shall we? With the 7th generation and the 6th generation, because I wish I had an Xbox, because I didn't really play Halo and stuff back then, but Halo 2. So even people that played those games will happily say that put them on the list as well. But let's just do a bit of comparisons between the 2000s, the 6th and 7th, to the 8th and ninth generation in terms of multiplayer. Now, wow, Jesus, like, seriously, when it comes to the games that we had back then, wow, like, I cannot begin to describe to you guys the level of quality that we had. It felt like it felt like we had so many different options to play in terms of multiplayer games back then. Because hey, let's just go for a few. So first thing, I'll talk to you guys about COD 4, and Modern Warfare 2, and World at War, and COD 2. I didn't play it, but I heard it was great as well. We were just the COD franchise absolutely exploded back then with the original Infinity Ward, Jason West, Vincent Sempella, and all those guys, those absolute geniuses. I I really do believe that Infinity Ward, the original Infinity Ward, not the absolute shell of itself back nowadays, but the original Infinity Ward, now Respawn Entertainment, was one of the best developers in terms of multiplayer games ever. With what they did with COD 4, that thing absolutely revolutionized multiplayer gaming, and it had back then and still to this day now. I don't think anything has beaten the COD 4 formula in terms of FPS shooting mechanics. So COD 4 absolutely revolutionized. It was unbelievable back then. If you played COD 4 back in its prime, you will know how great it was back then. So COD 4 absolutely exploded. Then you had Halo 3, like Halo 3 with Bungie, was just continuing the highs of Halo 2. So that game was great. Then you had Gears of War, which exploded as well. You had Uncharted if you didn't have an Xbox and you had a PlayStation, which was really good as well. You had Battlefield, Bad Company 1 and 2. Then you had Battlefield 3, which was, in my opinion, the best Battlefield. So yeah, we just had about 5 or 6 franchises that you could just pick from back then, and they were absolutely just phenomenal. Like the best time to be alive as a gamer was in the mid to late 2000s, well, the whole 2000s, but the mid to late 2000s was just the peak of multiplayer gaming, in my opinion. We were absolutely fucking blown away. It was so fucking good back then. Absolutely. I cannot, oh wow, like, I'm fucking crying just thinking how great it was back then and how garbage it is now. But yeah, so with those franchises, like just absolute classics. Like, people will be talking about COD 4 and Halo 3 and the Gears of War franchise for a good 50 to 100 years. That's how amazing they were back then. And then, so I just talked about the great things about Halo, about those franchises. And then we come to nowadays, and with the 8th generation, I felt like there was a lot of multiplayer franchises that failed. And let's just get a few of them. Let's just talk about Destiny. Destiny came out with Bungie, and in my opinion, guys, that thing was a failure. That franchise did not take off like Bungie and Activision wanted to. It was nowhere near as good as the highs of Halo. With Destiny 1, I thought that thing was a major disappointment. The multiplayer was crap. The whole game was crap, to be honest. Like, it was very bland. It was just nothing special. The gameplay was ordinary. It was an absolute bullet sponge fest in terms of multiplayer. It was not good at all, guys. So yeah, Destiny, I felt like did not meet the expectations that it wanted to. Then you also had Titanfall, which was a good franchise. Do not get me wrong, with Respawn and all that. However, that's a franchise that was good, but it wasn't. It didn't set the world on fire like EA and Respawn wanted it to be. I remember back in 2014 when people were saying that this was a COD killer. Not even remotely close. Even though it was amazing, it didn't set the world on fire like the rest. Next, I'll also talk about Evolve. That was another game, a multiplayer game that was an absolute failure. It was garbage. It was nowhere near as good as people wanted it to be. It fell off a cliff head first with a cinder block around its legs. It was nowhere near as good as well. So we're so straight off the bat in the past in the eighth generation, we had three franchises that were supposed to be the next big thing fail completely. So yeah, that was certainly not what we wanted to see. Next, I'll talk about all those franchises that I just mentioned with the highs of that we had back in the seventh generation and how they failed or fell off in the eighth generation. So let's just talk about COD in the eighth generation and nowadays. COD is an absolute shell of itself compared to the highs of how great it was back then. Pretty much from Ghost onwards, every single game has been dog shit. All of them I wouldn't consider even remotely good. Like with Ghost, that was a failure. That was boring as shit. Huge maps, terrible gameplay. Had great hit detection, but it was a terrible time to kill. Then you had Advanced Warfare. Fucking atrocious, guys. It was fucking atrocious, that piece of shit was. Literally, it had terrible time to kill. The jumping was all over the place. The kill streaks sucked. The maps were ordinary. The perk system was fucking terrible. It was literally, you only had about 3 perks to use. Everything else was useless. It was a terrible game, guys. Then you had Black Ops 3. In my opinion, I don't know why people rate that game. It was not even remotely good. Maybe in the 8th generation and pretty much in that thing, it was probably the best out of a bad bunch, but that's not saying much. I did not like Black Ops 3. It was just another jumping mechanics, had terrible kill streaks. The time to kill was shit. It based on MLG. It wasn't that good. Then you had what else? What was after it? Then you had Infinite Warfare. I didn't play it. But I heard it was a failure. I heard it was really bad. It fell off. World War II. At the start, it was trash. It got a little bit better, but it was atrocious. Then you had then you had Black Ops 4, which I mean I didn't play it, but the grand scheme of it wasn't that great. It might have been okay, but I don't think people will remember that game in 10-15 years time. And then you had, what else did you have? There's so many fucking COD games that I forgot. What was after Black Ops 4? One moment. There you go. Then you had Modern Warfare. See, there's been so many COD games I forgot all about. You had Modern Warfare. That thing was beyond atrocious, guys. Absolutely just embarrassing how bad that game was. I remember playing the demo. I mean the beta, whatever, demo, but it was called a beta, but it was a demo, and that thing was beyond fucking atrocious. Some of the worst gameplay I've ever seen. Some of the worst maps I've ever seen. It was garbage. It was a failure. Every single COD franchise, you couldn't even remotely compare to the GOAT status of COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, World at War, even Black Ops 1, and even Black Ops 1 was as well. You couldn't even compare the highs of how great those games were to what COD is nowadays. Not even remotely close. Then you had Cold War, which everybody fucking hated. Everybody did not like that piece of shit. It was so bad, guys. Like, wow, I've never seen the community like hate a game so much than Cold War. And now we're getting Vanguard, which it's got to be $1.10 favorite for that thing to be an absolute piece of shit as well. Like, no one is looking forward to that game. It's coming out in a couple of weeks. I think it's coming out maybe next week, and nobody's excited for that thing. So the COD franchise has fallen off. We'll talk about Halo. With Halo 5. Halo 5 was a failure. It was garbage. It was the Halo people who played Halo did not like that game at all. It was a shell of itself compared to Halo 2, Halo 3. So you had the Halo franchise falling off. Even though I know Halo Infinite's coming out, and that game looks okay. So we'll see how that game goes as well. What else? You had the Battlefield franchise. I still believe that the Battlefield franchise did fallen off compared to the highs of Battlefield 3 and 4, because you had Hardline, which was atrocious in the 8th generation, Then you had Battlefield 1, which a lot of people liked. Like, if you like Battlefield 1, that's fine. I just felt like it was just a step down from Battlefield uh, 3 and 4. And then you had Battlefield 5 as well, which well, I wouldn't say everybody hated, but it was certainly not praised like the other games, with all the problems, that stuff that DICE wanted to do with all of it, and stuff like that. Yeah, so those two games, in my opinion, definitely dropped the Battlefield franchise down a little bit. Not saying that they were bad games, but yeah, it was definitely, in my opinion, a step down. And with the new Battlefield coming out, um, yeah, Jesus, fuck. Well, like with the beta, I'm praying to God that what Dice are saying, that it was true, that is true, with how it was an old build. But then I heard rumors. Then we heard rumors that it wasn't. They were actually, that EA was lying and saying that it was actually a September build. So Jesus, we're getting a bit of up and down information back then. But anyway, let's find out when the game comes out in about a month or two, whenever it comes out. So yeah, so guys, what I'm trying to say is that franchises that were great, and it's just not the same, guys. It is nowhere near as good as it used to be. And then I haven't even mentioned the new fucking multiplayer fucking garbage, absolute garbage, like game genre I've ever seen in my life. It is hands down the most overrated, non-skillful piece of shit franchise or game genre you will ever see, and that is, of course, the battle royale genre. One of the most garbage piece of shit game genres I've ever seen. I've never seen a game genre in my life that requires so little skill to do good in. Seriously, let's just talk about a few of these fucking game genres. Games. Let's talk about. I mean, we'll save the worst piece of shit to the end. We'll start with Player Unknown's Battlegrounds. One of the most poorly optimized, boring, camp infested, no skill RNG thing I've ever seen. It was so bad, guys. Like, I can't believe people liked that game back then. I'm glad, like, oh wow, it was terrible. You want to talk about, literally all you had to do in that game was literally just camp your balls off, and just wait for the gas to come, and then kill maybe one person, and you win the game. Like, I've seen, there was someone who I watch and kind of do. He literally camped at the church thing in Pochinki and literally got 30 fucking kills. Literally just camping in that church and literally just picking off everybody that ran past. 30 kills. So yeah, that was pretty much pub battlegrounds. Just camp your balls off, and there you go. You're a good player. Next, let's start with the COD battle royales. Like, Blackout was painfully average. Like, it was a nothing battle royale. It was another slow pace, uninteresting fucking game. It wasn't that good. It was like I said, slow pace, boring, RNG infested, just terrible. Yeah, like, no one plays it anymore, which is whatever. And then let's talk about Warzone. Warzone is absolutely terrible, guys. It was garbage, literally. Uh, you're getting a trend here, guys, of how the battle royale genre is. It is literally just slow pace, uninteresting, RNG, camp your dick off, and just wait for the gas to come or whatever it is, and then kill one person, then you win the game. Like, if people think that this is a good way to define game skill, then Jesus, I don't. If this is considered game skill, then I'm a shit fucking player, because I refuse to play like that. I refuse to fucking have to, wait for maybe half an hour for one person to come around and then get one kill and then maybe get shot in the back, and then game over. Like, yeah, I I absolutely hate battle royales. One just straight pathetic to me. And yeah, and last but not least, let's talk about Fortnite. Easily, easily the most overrated multiplayer game of all time. I've if nothing but a bunch of just nothing but a bunch of camping. Just literally just spam the keyboard consistently. Just go ballistic with the mouse and just spam it so people who have any sort of gun skill can't kill you because you're just building an Eiffel Tower. Yeah, and just camp and loot, and there you go. Kill one person, win the game. That's battle royale. Like, Fortnite is atrocious. Like, probably one of the most overrated multiplayers I've ever seen. Like, I refuse to play that game. I played once. I literally got 5 kills. Got to the final 2. Literally looking everywhere for this guy. Out of nowhere, he just pumps an RPG straight into my face where I build like a little tent hut, whatever the hell it is. I died. Game over. There you go. And he wins the game. That's Fortnite. That's game skill for you. That's 2020 game skill. Like, yeah. So yeah, guys, like, I hate battle royales. Are one of the main reasons why I don't like multiplayer and how much I feel like it's fallen off. I'm starting to get the impression that a lot of people are starting to feel the same way too. Like, I really do believe that. I seriously believe that a lot of people are starting to realize that these game battle royales are not really that good to begin with. But hey, better late than never. So yeah, so when it comes to the franchises that I mentioned before and just the new franchise nowadays, I seriously believe that multiplayer gaming is just, like, the games are just nowhere near as good as what we used to have, and they also don't require as much game skill to succeed in. And while I'm here, I might as well talk about Overwatch and Valorant. I thought those games are nothing special as well. Like, literally just another bullet sponge 2v1 situation. Just in terms of Overwatch, just literally just all it is just get a teammate, literally just stay together, and just every time one person comes out, you can just kill them together. There you go, 2v1 situation. There you go. That was Overwatch, and just jumping all over the place. Yeah, it wasn't for me. And Valorant, I don't know, I just feel like it's a cartoon version of CS:GO, to be honest. Yeah, just nothing special. So yeah, so that's probably the main reason why I didn't like multiplayer and how I feel that it has fallen off. That the games are just nowhere near good enough compared to COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, Halo 3, Gears of War. Like, those games, I believe that we will talk about those games for 50, 100 years. But in terms of what we got in the 8th generation and coming on to the 9th generation, I don't think people will remember these games, because I seriously believe that they were just a step down, that they just weren't good enough compared to what we used to have. But yeah, that's just my opinion. Like, you can let me know in the comments if I'm right or wrong. But yeah, I just feel like back in the 7th generation and the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, that we were just in heaven, because the games were just nowhere. We're just so much better than what we've got now. So yeah, that's probably the main reason why I don't like multiplayer games anymore. However, there's a couple of other things why I don't like multiplayer games anymore, and I'll get into the next point. One thing about me is that I'm a very statistical person. Like, I like to know the numbers. So when I'm talking about that is, I like to know how many people have bought a certain game, and how many people are playing online of a certain game. And the next point that I'm going to mention, and this is a pet peeve, like, I absolutely fucking hate the fact that nowadays that none of these game publishers or anyone like that are not showing how many people are playing online of a certain game anymore. And I remember when I mentioned in my 8th generation video the conspiracy that I had. So I'm going to say it again. When it comes to them not showing the multiplayer numbers or how many people are playing online, it means that they've got something to hide. I seriously believe that these games that have come out nowadays are nowhere near as popular as what they like to think. So in terms of the COD franchise, like I mentioned, I really do believe that that franchise has fallen off, and compared to the absolute highs that we used to get back in COD 4 and Modern Warfare 2, where literally there was a good 500,000 people playing those games pretty much non-stop. I remember, like, in terms of me where I live, because I live in Australia, and see being that people from I'm in the see being that people from the north, what's it called, like the northern hemisphere, are usually asleep when I played COD 4 and all that stuff like that. So it's not considered prime time hours, but regardless, on the PlayStation 3, where no one, like I wouldn't say no one, but it was certainly the lesser console in terms of numbers compared to the 360, and and I was in a different time zone. It didn't matter back in those days. We used to get people. It used to be about 400,000 to 600,000 people playing COD at a certain time, and probably the same thing with Halo. I remember people when Halo came out, and I'm pretty sure it continued on for a good couple of years. That Halo used to get about a good 200 to 300,000 online at a certain time. So nowadays, the fact that we don't get to see these numbers anymore, I seriously do believe that these game publishers have something to hide. The fact that these games are nowhere near as popular as those games, and the fact that they're hiding the player count numbers. So with the COD franchise, like I said, I seriously believe that it's down to nowadays probably a good 50 to maybe 80,000 people are playing those games, depending on what game franchise that came out. And with the Battle Royale games, and specifically Fortnite, I remember back in 2018, that someone wrote an article saying that Fortnite, this is in its prime by the way, had 3.6 million players online, which on the grand scheme of things sounds really good, right? Like 3.6 million, yeah, that's good. However, it doesn't really tell you the full side of the story. With Fortnite, it's of course a free-to-play game, so people don't have to buy any money for that. Another thing that they mentioned is they didn't mention it was per console. So if it was 3.6 million people per console or per platform, that would have been really good. However, it wasn't. They didn't mention that. So pretty much we're going to have to divide 3.6 million to what, 5 or 6 different consoles. You had like the PlayStation 4, the Xbox 360, the PS3. You had the not the PS3, the PC, the Switch, your mum's, your tablet, your phone, your grandma's sewing machine, like all stuff like that, because this thing was on every single platform. If you divide it by that, it's probably a good 5 to 600,000 people were playing Fortnite in its prime at the time, which is still good. But like I said, it's a free-to-play game, so the fact that COD and all them managed to do those numbers back then, where you had to buy the game, it just spells wonders of how big those games were. And I reckon if those Battle Royale franchises came out 10 years earlier, that nobody would be playing them, because yeah, it was just certainly better back then. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons why I don't like, I hate that we don't get to see the player count numbers anymore. And I seriously do believe it's because they have something to hide. Yeah, so I don't know how you guys feel about that. Let me know in the comments section if you I don't know, agree with me or disagree with me. But yeah, the fact that we don't get to see the player numbers anymore, just something to, I believe it's something to hide. And another thing that I hate is that we don't get to see how the sales numbers anymore. I remember back in the whole 2000s, like these game publishers and developers, they couldn't wait to tell us that a certain game sold millions of copies in 24 hours, or billions of dollars in revenue in 24 to 48 hours. We don't get to see that anymore. And like I said, I do believe that it's because these games, especially these multiplayer games, are nowhere near as popular, or as popular as what we used to get. The fact that they're hiding it means that they've got something to hide in terms of how popular these games are. So, but yeah, that's just my conspiracy on that. And yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. It's just my opinion. I could be right, I could be wrong, but hey, we'll never know, will we? And last but not least, there's just one other thing that I don't really like about multiplayer games anymore, and yeah, just something that really bothers me is that the fact that there really isn't that much communication anymore in terms of people talking to each other online. Because back in the day, back when COD, Modern Warfare 2, and Halo 3, there was just so much communication between everyone. Like everyone either had a mic and 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 was talking to each other, and it was just amazing back then. Like I used to absolutely love the banter that we had between each other back then. I used to love people talking to each other. It was like either it was positive or negative, the shit talking, just everything about that back then. Like it was just so it was so awesome, guys. Like maybe people who didn't weren't alive back then and probably saw it on YouTube nowadays would probably think it was awful, but it was so good when people were trash talking each other, you know, talking to each other in the pre-game lobby, saying, "Oh, I'm going to smash you," or stuff like that, and going back and forward between that. But nowadays, no one talks anymore. It is a ghost town in terms of pre-game lobbies nowadays. Like it used to have millions of people talking to each other, and now it's a ghost town. As you guys will probably remember that COD 4 reference. Yeah, it is an absolute ghost town. It is so dead nowadays. Like no one talks to each other, and it's terrible. Like it is so dead and depressing in terms of multiplayer lobbies nowadays. Like no, it is so quiet. When it comes to talking, that's pretty much a good. That's pretty much 50% of the fun is talking to other people, whether it's positive or negative. And it wasn't like because I said it was it was negative. It wasn't all negative. Like you used to talk to people, from all over the country, and just talking about games and stuff, and then you meet new friends. It was so good, the social aspect of it back then, and nowadays it is so dead and depressing now. Like nobody talks at all. It is so quiet, and yeah, it is terrible. Like the fact that nobody talks anymore, and yeah, like I said, it's definitely 50% of the aspect, and no one does it anymore, and it's terrible. Yeah, so back then, back in Modern Warfare 2, the pre-game lobbies, oh my god, they were so fun. They were hilarious. Like people going back and forth with each other. It wasn't all negative, but a lot of the times it was, and it was just great. I wish I had a capture card back then so I could record it because it was awesome. So with the pre-game lobbies, and yeah, that's one thing I don't like about multiplayer anymore is the communication has definitely gone. So yeah, other than that, yeah, that's all for today, guys. Like, I hope you guys like this video in terms of how I feel about multiplayer. I seriously believe that the multiplayer games that have come out nowadays are not even remotely in the same stratosphere of what we used to have back then. I seriously believe if all these garbage battle royale games came out 10, 15 years earlier, or Overwatch, Valorant, or any single um, game that people would consider good nowadays, if they came out 10, 15 years earlier, nobody would be playing them because we had COD 4 and Modern Warfare 2 and Halo 3 and Gears of War and Uncharted over them, and nobody would be playing that crap because the bar has been set so low for multiplayer that anybody or any game is considered good because the bar has dropped. So pretty much anybody will play anything and would consider it good. But yeah, if this was a good 10, 15 years ago, nobody would be playing it because we had so many other better games to play that took more skill, that were more fun to play, and it was just awesome compared to the garbage that what we have nowadays. And yeah, so other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to hit the road in a minute. I might just let this gameplay play out, but yeah, other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments section how you feel about this, because I've been feeling this way for a very long time, since at least pretty much since the start of the 8th generation. However, I remember not like I remember in terms of games back in the 7th generation, like I wasn't the biggest fan of pretty much every COD game that came out after Modern Warfare 2. Like I wasn't the biggest fan of Black Ops or Modern Warfare 3, or Black Ops 2. But I'll tell you what, guys, I take back every single bad thing I said about those games. like instantly. I take all the bad things I say about all the games that I didn't really like in the 7th generation, because because I'll tell you what, those games I would happily play those games, no question about it, because at least you could have fun with them. Like, even with Halo, like, I don't know how people felt about Halo Reach or Halo 4. I really think that people didn't really like Halo 4, but I reckon a lot of people would take that game back. That's just my opinion, probably not, but I reckon a lot of people would have taken Halo 4 over Halo 5. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching. Yeah, I'm gonna hit the road. Let me know what you guys think about in the comment section, whether you agree or disagree. Sorry if I rambled a little bit. I did this all and literally just did it all in one go. No notes or anything. So thank you guys for watching, and hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you on the next video. Okay, bye.